Hi, second grade. You asked for fractions, and so here we go. I think this is going to be a 2 or 3 part series, however, because there's a lot to talk about with fractions. So let's start off with the word fractions. Okay, fractions are actually an equal part of a whole. Okay, you can actually interchange these two words, fractions and part. So for example, you might say, oh, I only ate a part of my dinner because I wasn't feeling good. Or you could say, I ate a fraction of my dinner because I wasn't feeling good. Or I only got to watch a part of the movie before I had to go to bed. You could also say, I only got to watch a fraction of the movie. Okay, you didn't get to watch the whole movie, you're watching a part of it. So fractions are actually parts of a whole thing. So I want to talk about equal and unequal though, because fractions have to be an equal part of a whole. And as you can see with these shapes right here, I drew a line to divide them perfectly in half. Both parts are equal. So if this was a small little cookie and you and I split it, I would get the same part or the same size part as you would. Okay? So each part is equal. And when we talk about fractions, we always have to talk about equal. Now the shapes over on this side are unequal. Notice where the line is drawn here. If we split that in half, somebody would get a bigger piece and somebody would get a small piece. And there's no possible way that you can split this heart equally in half when you go across. Okay, so just look at those shapes for a minute and see how they are unequal. And for an example, let's say that we had a large piece of cookie here that we were going to share between 4 friends. These look like they're split equally, okay? Even if I cut them, it does look like each piece is equal. Everybody would get an equal part. Can you see that, Peyton? Mm-hmm. Okay. But what about this cookie? Does it look like we're all going to get equal parts this time? Let me cut on the lines and we'll find out. Okay, so if I put this cookie back together, not everybody's going to get an equal piece. Somebody's going to get a nice big piece and somebody is going to get a teeny tiny piece, and that's not fair. So those are not equal fractions. Okay, so for today's lesson, I just want you to get used to drawing fractions, and that's all we're going to do. So I drew 3 different circles, and I'm going to show you how we can make fractions out of them. So if we wanted to turn this circle into half, we could either split it going up and down, across. We could even go at a diagonal if you wanted to be fancy. So that's what I will try. Okay, and so that is called half. H-A-L-F. The L is silent. And that's called half. Now, if we want to split a circle into thirds, it's very tricky. Some of you might think, oh, I'll just draw 2 lines up and down. But actually, that's not going to work. Okay, and I'll show you why. Look at this. If we just drew 2 lines, of course I have 3 pieces, but are they equal? Is this piece the same exact as this middle piece? It's not, so that's not an equal fraction. So I'm going to cross that one out. So I think this is we're going to draw a peace sign, or like the Mercedes-Benz sign. So we're going to start at the top of the circle, and we're going to come about halfway down, and then that's where I want you to stop. And then you can try, we're going to draw a line up this way and out here. Okay, so this is even hard for me to draw, but I'm going to try my best. And there we have 3 equal pieces, 1, 2, and 3. And we call this thirds. Just add an S after the third. Okay? All right. Let's try to divide this piece into a lot of pieces. So I'm going to start up and down. Whoops, I'll try that better. Up and down, that's half. Across, that would be fourths. But I'm going to go even farther than that. So we drew a plus sign in this circle. And now if you add an X, we'll have a lot more pieces. So here is the start of my X. And let's count all of those pieces. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. So this is called eighths. And so we spell 8 like we normally would, and then we add an HS. It's really hard to spell, but that's how you do it, eighths. Okay, so let's try dividing our squares into fractions. So I'm going to try to divide this into 3 equal parts. And so I can't just go across the middle. That will only give me 2 pieces. And so what I like to do, and try to remember this when you practice it on your own, find the middle right here, put a little dot a tiny dot right there. Then you're going to go from that tiny dot to the top here and find the middle of these. I'm going to draw them a little bit darker so you can see. The middle would be probably right around here, and so that's where I'm going to draw my line. We've already got the middle dot here, and then we're going to go to the bottom. Find the middle between these two, which would probably be right about here. And then we have 3 equal pieces to that fraction. So this is called thirds, just like that is. Okay, now I'm going to divide this into fourths. An easy way to do it would be down and across, okay? But I'm going to show you a different way this time. I'm going to start straight down the middle. So it looks like I've got that split in half. And now from here to here, I'm going to try to find that middle. So that would be probably right about here. I'm going to draw that line going down. And then from this middle to this end, we'll find the center of that and draw a line going down. So let's count our pieces. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they all look the same. So this is called fourths. So we write the number 4 like you normally would, and then just like with eighths, we're going to add that, we're going to add a THS, and that is fourths. Okay? And then here is the easy way of making that into 4 pieces, and that is also called fourths. Okay, so let's try to look at some rectangles here. I'm going to make this into thirds, just like I did with the square. But maybe this time I want to go up and down. So again, like I told you here, find the center, which would be right here. Okay? Don't draw anything in the center. Leave that blank. Make a dot here. Find the center of these 2 dots, which would be probably right here. You can draw your line going down. Go back to that dot that you drew. And this end, find the center and draw, down. And then you have 3 equal pieces. And we call this thirds, just like above there. All right, I'm going to try to divide this into 6 equal parts this time. So I'm going to do exactly what I did here. Now that's only 3 parts, so I'm going to go right across the middle. And there you have your 6 equal parts. So we're going to write the number 6 like we normally would. And then you're going to add your THS. And that's kind of a tongue twister to say, 6th. Okay, it's really hard to say. Okay, and now this one is going to be our biggest fraction of all. We're going to divide this into 10 parts. Okay, so I'm going to go across, and then I'm going to draw 4 lines going up and down. 4 yeah, I think, no, wait. 1. Okay, and then 1 more. There we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that is called tenths. So we write 10 like you normally do, add a THS. Okay, now quickly before I let you go, I am going to actually draw some fractions for you. These fractions are written out in word form, but I'm going to write them out in standard form. So if I were to color one part of this, maybe the top half, we would write that fraction like 1/2, and that's called 1/2. And the reason why is because I only colored one piece, but then the bottom part is everything. It's 1 and 2. It's everything that's colored and everything that's not colored. Okay, so that's 1/2. Okay, so the denominator down here is going to be 3 because there's 3 total pieces, so that's easy. But this time, maybe I'll color 2 parts. I know I'm a little messy because I'm trying to do this quickly. So I've colored 2 parts over 3 altogether, and we would read this fraction as 2/3. Okay, let's move over to here. What would our denominator be on the bottom? How many pieces total? 8. You're correct. And now maybe I'll just color this piece, and this piece, and this piece. So let's count all the pieces that I colored. 1, 2, 3. So my numerator on top is 3, and the denominator is 8, and we say 3/8. Okay? All right, the denominator for this fraction would be what, boys and girls? Count all of the pieces. You're right, the denominator would be 3. If I just colored the top part, we would write a 1 up there, and that's 1/3. All right, what's the denominator for this one? How many total pieces are there? 4. And let's say I colored this piece and this piece. Okay, so we would write a 2 as our denominator. So 2/4 are colored. All right, and our denominator for this fraction is what? I hope you guessed it right. 4. And let's say I colored this part, and this part. So my numerator would be 3. And so 3/4 of this square is colored. Okay? Again, what would my denominator on the bottom be? 1, 2, 3. Let's say I just colored this piece and this piece. So our numerator is 2. 2/3. All right, we've got 2 more to go. This denominator would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's say I shaded this one, this part, and that's it. Our numerator would be 2, and we would read this 2/6. And then last but not least, how many is in our denominator? We have 10. So 10 would be the denominator. And maybe I'll color 1, 2, 3, and 4 pieces. So your fraction reads 4/10. Okay, I'm going to do another video with fractions. I know this was a quick lesson, but what you can try at home is just to find maybe circles. I found this in my pantry. Trace some circles onto some paper. I found this Tooth Fairy box, which is a perfect square to trace. I got some mac and cheese for the rectangles. Anything you can find at home, try to trace those and then divide them up equally. Remember, fractions are equal. And then you can go ahead and try to color parts of them. The colored part is your numerator, and the total pieces are your denominator. And so you can go ahead and make your own fractions. All right, second grade, I'll see you next time with another fraction lesson.